Hello and welcome to the Horse Race Politics Podcast. We are back, ready to tackle the wonderful world of politics, elections, and much more. Hopefully, this year, there'll be a little less coverage of the powerful and wealthy allegedly conducting some of the worst crimes imaginable. Oh. I'm one of your hosts, Dr. Louis Bromfield, postdoctoral researcher in politics at Swansea University. And do you know how some pundits are wrong once or twice? Well, my co-host believes in longitudinal data, and he's consistently wrong over time. It's Professor Matthew Wall.
Yeah, thank you, Louis.
How are you doing today, buddy?
My incredible inability to understand politics has been well articulated
Yes.
now, well measured.
But it's now at the point that
year.
it does justify a podcast
I
where
think
you then preach your expertise.
I think I have a good idea what's happening in Wales.
Yep.
Very excited about that.
Mm-hmm.
Spent dark nights writing survey questions over the winter, but we're into the spring now.
Yes. Just
yeah.
to remind the people that you are in charge of the Welsh election study.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's cool. I mean, my kids don't say to me it's cool, Dad, that you do that. But
I think it's
like
cool.
It. Yeah. So yeah, we're working with Ipsos, who are like a survey company that you might have heard of, and we've just been drafting survey questions endlessly. But it's good. It's on track. Yeah, and it's a hell of an election to cover. So obviously we'll be diving into the Welsh politics and increasingly as we approach May. We'll also have our website live soon.
Yes, the next few weeks.
Next couple of weeks. So we're kind of really at the point where that's being actually kind of played with by our team members, and we're getting a bit of user experience feedback from ourselves.
Yes.
So yeah, exciting times ahead, and just so much fun following the Mandelson. I mean, we tested some ideas for what to call this, but I think in the end it has to be called the Randy, Andy, Mandy, Scandy.
Yes. I think
Scandy being for scandal.
Exactly, not Scandinavian.
No,
That's
the
very important
Scandinavian
distinction.
Norwegian princess is implicated.
They are.
So it could be Scandy in that sense, but Scandy Noir.
You don't want Scandy in the title. It becomes a bit too much at that point.
Scandal is the Scandy. So I think the four kind of balances out. So Randy, Andy, obviously a reference to, the disrespect that the tabloids gave this man. And the lack of, how could we have known where this would all end?
Well, exactly.
Mandy, Peter Mandelson, a man who we will be discussing at some length. Pillar of the New Labour project, which literally governed the UK from 1997 essentially to 2010. One of the three most powerful men in the UK for large periods of that regime. So he's had a bad week. And Scandy, because it is a scandal, because the Epstein files have dropped, as we know.
More of the Epstein files have dropped. We had 3 million documents get released, which is still not all of them.
I mean, I was thinking about these files, and I was like, when I die, how many millions of files will there be left unaccounted for? I'm still, I think, under 1 million files in terms of my own.
You had me shredding quite a few last week.
Yeah, we did extensively.
Kept saying JE along a bunch of them, but I'll make sure we
yeah, and indeed, such is the incredible bizarreness of the situation that in several of the podcasts I listened to, they'd actually searched the release for their own names and found themselves mentioned.
Yeah.
So there's a kind of metaphysical wraparound happening there. I haven't yet actually.
You haven't looked for yourself,
audience participation. So see where you find me.
Search your own names and see if you're in the Epstein files.
It's an interactive web-based experience for all of us to undertake. But along the way, maybe search for some of the most prominent people in this country where we live, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland.
Yes. Horse race politics, sadly, does not feature in the Epstein files.
We're not there yet.
No, we haven't quite made it that large, but we're getting there. So today we have 3 kind of major things that we want to talk about. We want to talk about the state of the polls in Wales.
Yes.
Because arguably our kind of key focus for the next few months is going to be building up to the Senedd elections here in Wales, which take place on May the 7th.
Yes, we're going to have an election.
We're going to have an election. It's election year for us in this country, so it's a very exciting time. But it's not just one of those things that we talk about just because it's an election, but because this is arguably going to be the most dramatic shift in Welsh political landscape since devolution began, or whatever. This is a colossal shift, and we'll get into that. Afterwards, we're then going to quickly address the Gorton and Denton by-election, which
Gorton and Denton by-election.
the most upper middle class
Why do
thing.
English people have this language?
I'm sorry.
Like, they're
I
not
apologize.
to be trusted with it.
No, we
Gorton and Denton
Gorton and
by-election.
Denton. So we'll be looking at the lay of the land there and what that.
No,
kind of
it's a
says.
wonderful name, actually.
It's-
And our erstwhile guest, Rob Ford, has written the most illuminating Substack on this. So I feel like I've got a PhD qualification in Gorton and Denton, having read for about half an hour Rob's insights. So yeah, we'll get into that, but that's huge. That's kind of huge UK level implications.
And then we'll close out with our great crack and sad sack, which will mostly be Epstein orientated, but we will dip into some other topics because a lot happened in the last few months while we were away.
I think
last
that's
kind of month and a half.
safe to say.
So we're going to start off with the most recent ITV Cymru Cardiff University poll for the Welsh Senedd elections, which are quite transformational usually at kind of a UK level, we get very regular polls, very, very regular. It's national level, it's big headlines. Wales kind of underappreciated in that sense. The ITV Cymru poll that we have here is measuring changes from September, I believe. So
To January.
Yeah.
Late Jan, was it?
Something
Let's
on the
pause on this, because I think this is where our pod can bring a bit of value, actually, is kind of
that's a good idea.
knowing a bit about how polling actually kind of works and how incredibly difficult it is to do. So the ITV Cymru Wales poll, so ITV is a television station over here. Cymru just means Wales, and Wales means Wales as well. So a poll means a survey. So there we are. Is conducted in kind of a partnership with YouGov, I believe, are like the survey providers. And I think Dr. Jack Larner at Cardiff University is kind of the lead academic working with them. So that brings a lot of credibility to the polling numbers that are produced, right? So I take these polls quite seriously. They're done methodologically properly. The questions are asked properly. The analysis is good. They are irregular, and therefore you shouldn't put so much faith in them as you would if you had a whole body of individual polls showing you the same trend.
Correct.
So, like, if you look at, say, the US presidential election has like daily polling, basically, sometimes 2 or 3 polls in a given day. And if you look at all of those, you'll see a trend line. But if you look at the dots, you'll see outliers on either side of a given percentage. So there's a risk in over analyzing a poll like this. We normally offset that by looking at the confidence interval that we have of the estimate, right? Which is a long way of saying, I think 37% is what applied are at. What does that mean? In reality, it means that there's a very high probability that they're between kind of 34 and 40%. But like the hardest part of polling is knowing who's actually going to turn out to vote. And so that part usually is kind of proprietary actually to polling companies, which is absolutely fine. So they're kind of tuning their sample to be accurate in that way. But with all of those caveats, this was a dynamite poll when it came out because of as you so rightly say, the scale of the shift that was evidenced from one poll to the next. So yeah, shall we just run through the polling figures maybe? Is that
So we have
nice?
Plaid Cymru in first on 37% of the vote, which is a 7-point increase from last time. So they've gone from 30% to 37%. This is a 14 percentage point gap over Reform UK, who are second with 23%, down 6. So they were at 29%.
So you've gone from a situation there of like neck and neck,
30 to 29,
to a 14-point
14-point lead. We also then have the Greens in third on 13%, up from 6.
Wait, Louis, the Greens?
The Greens.
Have you forgotten about the most successful party electorally in Wales?
What? No, I haven't, because those jabronis are in fourth on 10%, down 4. So
Can we talk about Labour for a moment?
we can.
Let's recap that. 10%. Having been at incredibly perilous 14%, literally the kind of threshold at which you'd be hoping to get something like 16 seats, right? So to kind of win one in each of the constituencies. And needing a comeback. Labour slipped outside of the margin of error, right? So there seems to be a real slip here in Labour support. I think Dr. Larner runs a series of like simulations then of like how would this play out, using the kind of, it's difficult because we have a new constituency structure, so it's quite, I mean, the way he does it is good. It's just I can't explain it in a very abbreviated format.
Yeah.
So he just basically runs these data through slightly different sets of assumptions that kind of give you a range of outcomes.
Yeah.
And so the kind of midpoint in that range for Labour at the polling of 10% is 8 seats. 8 seats in a 96 seat Senedd.
Not even 10%.
But there are simulations at 10% where they don't win any seats. It's possible, depends on the fragmentation of the vote around them. In the midst of, so this is bad, right? Like, so Labour,
disastrous.
Labour,
they've never not been the largest party.
Is in a situation ultimately of having like less than 10% of the Senedd, you know. So
they've either been a majority government or they've been in some kind of supply and demand agreement, whatever. Like, this is, if you think about the collapse of the Conservative Party from the previous 20, you had 15 years of successive governments.
To put it in some context, in 2016, UKIP would have secured more, like a higher proportion of seats in Wales than the Labour Party is set to win in 2026. So that's a big reversal of fortunes. And we'll come to the main like Plaid reform, but just because I've been kind of training my brain back up for podcasting and election studies, I've encountered a lot of Eluned Morgan's content. So she's been on a sort of publicity push, right? She's trying to take this campaign.
She's on the road
by the scruff of the neck, and I think it's important not to like insult people, right? And to treat everyone with respect. And she does seem like a perfectly like nice person in all of her media appearances. Well, perfectly nice is maybe too high of a standard. She seems fine, right? She's a human being, but she is a terrible politician. Whenever she seems to just pick stuff up from the top of her head. That then just falls apart like minutes after the interview is over, sometimes during the interview itself. And to the extent that there's like a strategic kind of policy push that Labour are putting together, so the parties are like right on it now in terms of getting their manifestos out. Her headline ask was for the devolution of justice and policing, right, to the to Wales, right?
And that's a pretty monumental shift in policy.
It would represent that, but it has actually been the official position of Welsh Labour for a long time. It has been recommended by multiple sort of credible, I would say, independent evaluations.
Yeah.
Its chief rationale is one that makes complete sense, which is that the police and the kind of social care services that people and the NHS that people kind of rely on to get through crises in their lives work together a lot, and therefore it would be good if that was coordinated better. And as I said, this has been their policy, but like, I mean, when she announced it before anything else happened, my immediate reaction was like, well, I mean, why didn't you announce this when you came in? This will take time. You've always wanted this.
Yeah.
You just are now deciding to kind of say, we're going to fight for it.
Yeah.
Too little, too late was my initial reaction. But I did not foresee the intervention of Shabana Mahmood, who literally in what, like 5-word sentence just dismissed the whole idea.
Yep.
Right.
Shot the whole thing down.
And in her For Wales See Wales interview, which I had a look at, I thought was, you know, again, they're very like accommodating kind of podcast in the sense of they're kind of generous. They're not like, it's not like Jeremy Paxman shouting at you, but they do ask good questions. And like her only and main idea of how things will be different was to embrace AI. And I'm like, and then the guy Will who hosts it said like, well, could you flesh that out a bit? I mean, we've been having a digital revolution for like at least 25 years, and Wales hasn't really rode that wave very effectively, or we're certainly not seeing it outperforming other parts of the UK. And like, she literally just talked in a word salad until, you know, everyone just sort of gave up.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that's your main idea, and embrace AI.
Yeah.
But you're not like, embrace AI ethically, have a state AI infrastructure, or have, I don't know. She literally just like, when people in her circles, it strikes me when you say AI, people think you're clever.
They're all clapping. Yeah.
But
going,
like,
yeah, AI, wow. Yeah.
For most people in most jobs, they're terrified they're going to lose their jobs. to AI. So, and her whole pitch is on opportunity and jobs. So it's been, and one last faux pas. So she was talking on another Senedd Sources podcast, which is also one I'd recommend, very detail oriented a little bit technical, but like very, once you kind of follow what they're saying, it's really good. She was guesting there, and she goes like, Mark Drakeford, do you know what the amazing thing about him is? He never cared about finance. Like, he was never into money. He was always into the social, social dimension of his calling. And, like, what was his position in the Welsh government?
He was in charge of the cheddar.
Yeah, he's done a good job and all. I would have said he got the budget through, but she just trashed him for no reason. And like, she didn't even mean it bad. And then that was the clip.
Yeah.
So like, I think they're in a really tough spot, because ultimately the logic of a campaign in today's kind of Wales, today's UK, centres on the leaders. So this slide was before all that stuff happened.
Yeah.
So I don't know who's benefited. Obviously, Plaid Cymru. So their 37% puts them in a kind of an interesting threshold where while the system is proportional, it still disproportionately favours the largest party. An interesting feature of the D'Hondt formula, in fact, actually the divisor system that they chose, is that it's relatively favourable to the biggest party compared to. There are others, modified Santa Ligue being my favourite, that make it like the smallest party easier to get in, if that makes sense. So you can kind of see here with 37%, another couple of points on that, and they're flipping into majority territory. Yeah. So they're, 45 seats there
out of 96. So you're kind of in this grey zone where a slight overperformance, as you say, puts you into majority territory. A slight underperformance puts you into a need to kind of go into some agreement with a smaller party. And
the split I'll be really interested in is the Plaid Labour Green split. Just in terms of being an electoral systems nerd, like do they optimize or sort of fall short of what the electoral system's asking? What's kind of completely suboptimal is to have something like 8 or 9, 10% concentrated in a party that does, like, let's say in that left block. If that was replicated countrywide, that kind of vote goes nowhere. So like, as I said, like with Plaid, they're right on the threshold of actually being credible for a majority with these polling numbers. Just to say on their campaign, it's been arguably, some would say, like it's their right and entitlement to kind of wait until the usual, like 2 or 3 weeks before the election, to drop the manifesto.
Sure.
Right. And in absence of that, they have a kind of a solid line of like, what are you going to do? Wait for the manifesto. Against that, I suppose, is like a degree of ambiguity about how things will be funded, about what's something that we're just going to try and do, and what's something like, for example, on the fair funding, like Wales has just been ripped off in rail funding, right? I'm sorry to put it so bluntly, but it's true. And it's definitely on Elliot Ned Morgan's wish list from Keir Starmer that's just been unreciprocated. It's also on Rena Pioret's wish list. But I haven't really seen his answer to, like, well, what if they just say no again?
Yeah, exactly.
And I have seen his answer, but his answer is, we'll just make it more transparent, more public, make it more embarrassing, more politically costly, which is a reasonable answer. And what's he going to do? Invade England? So I think that there are precisions that could be brought to Plaid's offer. And I think I think there's probably benefit in terms of some of their flagship things. Get them out now, and kind of test them. And by the time you start actually being in office, everyone knows what you want to do.
Pivoting now, because one of the things that I was thinking about when you were talking about the Greens is what Greens kind of contributing to governance in devolved nations like Scotland or Wales might do for the Greens' kind of credibility, electoral credibility, electability, let's say, nationally, right? To be able to actually point to someone like Wales and say, like, well, the Greens are no longer just, a small left-wing fringe group. We're actually helping form the government, either in some kind of coalition or some supply and demand relationship, whatever. Which then kind of got me thinking, nationally now, Polanski's been kind of slowly pulling the Greens up generally. And
I mean, quickly pulling them
very
up.
quickly. And in this Gorton and Denton by-election, that we have coming up. So this was, I want to say, isn't it Andrew Gwynn, the name of the MP who has stepped aside
For health reasons.
for health reasons. Okay, Labour had Andy Burnham rejected. He couldn't run. They took ages to nominate someone. The Greens misspelt Gorton and Denton. Reform nominated Matt Goodwin, a man who once said that having a British passport is not enough to make you British. And then the Greens nominated Hannah Spencer, who is now currently the favourite. This is a absolute car crash of a candidate selection process.
Awesome.
And that makes for a very tasty by-election. But this puts Hannah Spencer as currently the favourite. Goodwin's in second, but
bookies,
we're talking
yeah.
like a 10 to 15 percentage point lead.
They have it as a kind of 2-horse race with Labour, like a distant third.
Exactly. But looking at prediction
with
markets,
the Greens a bit
are,
more favourite. Yeah?
Greens are definitely ahead, but they're not in kind of clear favourite territory. It's still a bit horse racy. Oh, horse race? What? Horse race? Wow. So this is all kind of chaotic. This is crazy. What are your thoughts about this election?
I love it.
Are you Hannah
I
Spencer?
love this as a top by-election.
Yeah.
Mainly, in some senses, because of the Frankenstein-like nature of the constituency, right, which Rob talks about at in great detail, and kind of shows the different geographies that have been kind of just clustered together.
Yes.
To make this seat. So there's a kind of, what's the word? There's not one clear characterization of the electorate, right? Like there's a kind of quite a diverse electorate. That have traditionally been, you know, sort of a Labour-y group, and as we know now, everyone hates Labour for various reasons.
They do.
And as at the kind of national UK level, so while here in Wales, Plaid Cymru have largely been the beneficiaries, the Greens have also seen an increase. And Plaid Cymru, unfortunately, aren't running in Gorton and Denton, because that's near Manchester.
Yes. Not quite Wales.
And I don't know how well the Party of Wales would do in that election. But
With a try,
but
why
the
not?
Greens have been essentially sweeping up a lot of support that would sort of naturally sit with the Labour Party in the kind of first past the post system. Such is the unpopularity of the Conservatives and Labour that their kind of ideological outflanking parties on both sides are by far the favourites
Taking
now.
up their votes, yeah. But that's it's crazy, right? Like, to contextualize that with the Welsh polling that we're talking about, we're talking, Labour, Tories, third, fourth, consistently now, right? There's a bit of a, even if people
Labour,
have just done that,
Labour were fourth in the poll we just
exactly.
referenced. Fourth.
within the margin of error, like you
Yeah.
easily could drop down even further. But you might just be talking about, as you say, kind of two clusters of voters who are just doing that, which is not crazy. But in terms of like,
In terms of how politics looks, it is,
Yeah.
because they're all different set of people.
exactly the personnel that you're then bringing in, like the Conservatives are not bringing in a Matt Goodwin type person.
I mean,
right?
so it's it's somewhat awkward because political science in the UK is a relatively small world. And I mean, this isn't a preface to some kind of Epstein-like revelation, right? Just to be clear. It's just that I know Matt Goodwin. I've met Matt Goodwin a few times. I think I've gone out for dinner with him, with a group of other academics. Chatted about football and things like that, right? So at a human level, he's never been unpleasant to me or anything like that. And so there's no personal animosity between us. And yet, like, I feel like he's completely betrayed my profession.
Yeah,
And
the grift got to him, I think. And
I think it's to be clear, like, it's absolutely fine to
Alleged
go
grift.
to go from academia to advocacy or to become a politician or a TV news presenter, right? So I don't think you have to be an academic for life. But it's how he sort of used his academic training and like the kind of ethic that we have amongst us. Like, so even say someone like Rob or I might challenge each other on a point of fact, but that's that's respectful. That's how we learn, right? But Matt Goodwin is just making stuff up. and then the stuff that he wasn't making up is literally like directly like far right rhetoric that you can kind of pick up all the way back in the United States in like, the mid 2010s was starting to become prevalent, right? So the idea that there's a kind of a global dislocation of white people, that there's a kind of a conspiracy, or at least like, I mean, he doesn't always go towards a conspiracy. I think what he would posit that it's just literally societally like impossible for us to accommodate diversity as a
Correct.
population. And from that, it's like, oh, London has fallen.
Yep.
You know, Manchester has fallen.
I can quote him directly. He
Oh, and just to say, before you do so, because a lot of his earlier gripe was like, oh, I can't be a right-wing academic.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, you should try, you know, a lot of the university management are pretty right-wing, mate. Like, it's all right. You can say pretty right-wing things.
Yeah.
You can't be fascist adjacent.
Yeah. Or just fascist.
Yeah, well, if you start saying this stuff to me, like, we're going to have a problem.
Exactly.
Because I believe that people are equal regardless of where they come from.
Mm-hmm.
They're human beings at the end of the day. And so that's an ethical dimension to my thinking. But it's just untrue, a lot of what he's saying.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut
No,
across,
no,
but like
you're good.
it's untrue that you can be very right wing in university. I have a lot of right wing colleagues. We discuss these things, right? It's fine.
Yeah.
I'm very left wing. It's fine. Like
Yeah.
it's not like we all have to do an ideology test when we go into a room. And we can challenge one another, and that's how we learn actually as a community. But this guy, I think, found anyway that like he got a lot less challenges on this kind of things when he moved outside of academia. So
Yes.
he's moved outside of academia.
Indeed, he has. He said after Anthony Williams from Peterborough was charged with 11 counts of attempted murder, Goodwin posted on X that mass uncontrolled immigration was to blame. So the mass uncontrolled immigration bit was the direct quote. He was subsequently challenged by a poster who pointed out that Williams and another black man also arrested, the latter was later released, were born in the UK. Goodwin responded, "So were all of the 7/7 bombers. It takes more than a piece of paper to make somebody British," implying that citizenship is not enough to be a citizen. Who he was referring to in that case, I don't need to point out the ethnicity of the people, the race that he was talking about. These are direct quotations from
What
Matt
is this
Goodwin.
Britishness?
Exactly.
This is an island, right? People have come here for thousands of years, right? Even, believe it or not, some of us from Ireland, the other island that's near to you, right? And like you will not find any city or large community in the UK where immigration historically isn't part of that story. So what UK existed before immigration?
But then
So like
it's
this,
even
are we
worse
talking
now.
about like the Arthurian legend? What does this guy want to go back to?
I mean, the obvious answer is it's just white people, right? It's that. But it's the fact that you then say, okay, if the argument
But
against
he wouldn't say that, to be fair to
no,
Matt. And like,
he wouldn't. Allegedly.
No, but like he would say that he's not racist, and actually be calling that thinking racist is shutting it down.
Yep.
When actually it's a totally legitimate concern about cultural erosion.
Well, yeah.
But that is racist thinking. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like if you can deconstruct it, it's like erosion of a culture that is white by people who are not white.
Yeah.
Is racialized thinking about your culture.
Yeah.
And it's also wrong.
But it's not also it's also the point to say that we're not talking about, in that specific quotation, in that specific context, we're not just talking about people who have come over and assimilated and gained citizenship. We're talking about people who were born in the UK. So when you say that like calling this line of argumentation racist is shutting it down, I then draw your attention to the point that Matt Goodwin here is clearly referring to people who were born in the UK. The only distinguishing factor between them and somebody else is the color of their skin.
ethnicity.
Like, what else is it if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck?
I think one might charitably say it is un-British to kill people or to be a terrorist, right? That's not.
This is very
that's not
true.
the British way. Which that's a point to which I can completely subscribe. But to say that when a British citizen does that, they're not a British citizen is just incorrect.
It's
right?
like Andy Murray when he bottles the tennis. As soon as he goes out in the first round, he's Scottish. We dump his ass so fast. Gets to the final, he's an Englishman. He's
we say
British.
the same about Rory McIlroy with the golf.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But this is a touchy by-election, and it will be happening at the end of this month. We're
Yeah,
talking
but
like
just to
3
say,
months from
okay, so
3
just
weeks.
to return a little bit, so the Matt Goodwin thing is kind of tricky for me to talk about because I don't want to be needlessly aggressive, but I still feel quite strongly about it. So I think I've expressed that. The Green candidate,
Hannah Spencer.
what does she do for a living?
You tell me.
Plumber.
She is a woman with her, what do they call it? Vocation.
Yeah, no, she's a skilled worker. I'd
Skilled,
say,
yeah.
yeah. And she's great actually. If you listen to her now, I cannot wait to see her going and Matt Goodwin having a chat, because two more opposite sort of styles of thinking and communication you couldn't imagine.
Yep.
The reason it's so important is not the result of the election in and of itself, because Labour, as we know, have a massive majority in Westminster, and the election remains far away, the next general election. However, and perhaps linking into our final discussion,
Yep.
Sir Keir Starmer clings to his leadership by a thread.
Yes.
As we report today, at the moment, he's incredibly unpopular. It just comes back to that polling fact that, again, Rob Ford talked us through. Like, this is as bad as it's ever been for
The
a
most
Prime Minister.
unpopular Prime Minister ever.
Like, who survived longer than Liz Truss.
Who survived
48
longer
days.
than Liz Truss, yeah.
So, like, there's this incredible unpopularity, and where he might have expected some positive press around geopolitics and being diplomatic with the Chinese,
Quickly eroded.
Jeffrey Epstein's files had other ideas.
Peter Mandelson decided to get himself embroiled in yet another... Okay, let's do this very quick because we are kind of a bit tight on time. Can you, very quickly, explain to the people who don't know who Peter Mandelson is?
Peter Mandelson was a sort of political maven, a political guru, Labour Party.
Yep.
Basically, alongside Tony Blair and Alistair Campbell, Peter Mandelson was the kind of third man, making up the power triumvirate that was New Labour.
Sure.
New Labour, which seized electoral victory, like a massive, huge, actually very sort of, at the time, felt very good. Campaign in 1997 just swept the Tories out. The Tories were done.
Yep.
Stayed in power with that team, and was eventually sacked for, unsurprisingly, perhaps now in the light of these revelations, in inappropriate sort of financial arrangements, conflicts of interest.
Sure.
The same old story, but was sort of seen as so kind of politically deft and clever that he was brought back by Gordon Brown. Thereafter, I think in between, so that would have been around 2010s or so. Obviously, we've had then the Tories.
A lot of Conservative government.
Yeah, so Labour are kind of less relevant. And we get all the way to Labour, sweep all before them. Labour's back 2024.
Yep.
Keir Starmer's got a lot of difficult decisions on his plate. What am I going to do? Gee, Mac.
Which bill am I going to pass first?
Yeah, like
Oh my
who?
God.
Like the old age pensioners don't seem to be so happy about it. Maybe the
Disabled people
farmers,
as well.
the
Maybe we could just
disabled.
take money from them. Yeah, that's a great start.
So he's in a world of hard choices, as he keeps telling us. Rachel Reeves looked like she'd been bereaved.
Yeah.
In the she was just in floods of tears sitting behind him. So that's been the vibe. He gets he gets several, but one of several essentially free swings. In work, sometimes you control a position and you can just give it to someone good, and it's straightforwardly helpful.
You can delegate.
And there's about probably 200 people who could do it extremely well.
Yeah.
What does he do in that moment? And the position I'm talking about is ambassador to the United States of America.
Which will become salient momentarily. He appoints none other than Mr. Mandelson. Lord Mandelson, I should say.
Sir Keir appoints Lord Mandelson.
At the time of
How
writing,
could
he
anything
still has
go
this
wrong
title.
in a country like that?
He still has this title of Lord at the moment, but he has since resigned from the House of Lords. But there's a gap that we have to fill there between him being appointed and him being kicked out of the House of Lords, or him resigning from the
what
House
happened
of
in
Lords.
between? Oh, yeah, well, it turns out that, so by the time he's appointed, his association with Jeffrey Epstein is a matter of public record.
It's known. The extent to which is not, but it was known that he had contact with Epstein after it became known that Epstein was into some kind of more extreme tastes.
Well, after
let's say.
Epstein had been prosecuted in a public court and
Agreed.
held guilty as being a sex offender.
Yep.
So, that
Maybe not the best judgment call there on...
that profound error of judgment, not unlike Andrew Mountbatten Windsor,
Yes.
was a kind of a permanent thorn in his side, and he'd largely been removed from public life. I mean, as a sort of a serious big beast in politics.
Yes.
Keir Starmer decides to resurrect this guy because he's so clever, because he can kind of work politics well, because it turns out because he is very, very intimately connected with a lot of people at the top of the American regime. I don't know, was that a reason he was appointed? But surely, like, that's kind of the political logic is he knows these people, he can get stuff done with them.
Yes.
And I guess Keir Starmer thought, well, there's literally no one else in the world who can do that. Because he must have thought that to take the political risk.
Yeah.
And sometimes you roll the dice and sometimes you get a 1. And he rolled the dice on him.
You got like a -7 on that one, I think.
I
don't think it could have got any worse.
A previous tranche of Epstein releases showed like continued contact. Yeah. And this latest tranche.
There's quite a lot. We've got proof of suggestions, let's say, that Epstein paid for him to do an osteopathy course, or his husband to do an osteopathy course.
It was his husband.
Then there was apparently Epstein transferred him just a cool $75,000, you know. But Mandelson, in his infinite wisdom, and
that isn't allegedly.
Allegedly,
it's denied.
The main issue.
What was he doing?
For Mr.
What was he sending him? What was he sending Epstein?
Mr. Mandelson allegedly has sent a little bit of insider info to Mr. Epstein. They include, allegedly, thank you, Matt, for pointing that out, a confidential UK government document outlining £20 billion in asset sales. Mandelson claiming he was trying hard to change government policy on bankers' bonuses. Information on an imminent bailout package for the euro the day before it was announced in 2010, and a suggestion that the boss of the bank, JP Morgan, mildly threatened the Chancellor. So he's allegedly...
I mean, I start most days by mildly threatening you in the office.
Yeah, well, you know, sometimes it's severely threatening. But, you know,
yeah,
I've learned to live with the roulette, you know, of Matthew Wall.
The roulette of threat.
The roulette of threat. But this is where things are now very problematic for Lord Mandelson.
Indeed.
So after all of these kind of additional bits of information about Mandelson's connections or alleged connections to Epstein have come out.
Pictures, some great photos.
Pictures of him in his underwear in Epstein's flat.
On the yacht,
living the dream. He has been pushed out of the House of Lords. He's had to kind of resign his position. He still has his title, which can't be removed without an act of Parliament. Starmer and the cabinet have started throwing him under the bus.
This man should be arrested immediately.
But this is where we're getting to, right?
He should be arrested.
Now he is under a criminal investigation by the Met Police.
He's a flight risk. Get him. I mean, what more evidence do you want? I mean, it's literally there. The US federal government has released this as
rule of law, goddammit, right? And no one is above the law. Due process. This guy's just trying to lock everybody up.
You see me coming out of a bank with a big wad, and there's an alarm going off with a big wad of money in my hands. Does the policeman say, we'll have to start an inquiry, we'll get back to you in a couple of weeks? No. I mean, arrest this man. Is this not... This is sort of a sedition. Mm-hmm. This is corruption.
Alleged corruption. All of it.
This is all alleged, but it's not been disproved. And
he's not exactly come out and denied any of this.
The Met Police better get their skates on with this, honestly, because what kind of country are we living in, Louis? If literally the guy who was right at the heart of power, is selling out the country for 75k.
75k allegedly, yeah.
You know what I mean? I was talking to my dad about this, and I was like, 75k is nothing for a guy like that.
No.
Over the course, the salaries he'd have.
Yeah.
So, I don't know that it's just, what's the word? If you bribe someone with cash, and that's all it is, but there was a relationship here.
Yeah.
You don't sit on the yacht next to the lad if you're just one of 2,000 people he's bribing.
Yeah.
So, not only should he, honestly, this in my opinion, he should be arrested and charged with what the evidence is. He should be asked to say what was going on.
Yeah.
What was he doing? He can't not remember.
Well, especially when you consider that the emails would just be the tip of the iceberg. When you have so many pictures of him being there, having casual chats, basically the point that you were just making of having a relationship, if this is the stuff that we see is written down, what other sort of information
what record exists of our relationship, right?
Yeah.
We work together every day.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say there's as many pictures of me and you that we've taken just on a night out.
None in our underwear that I know of.
I've never been in my underwear in a photograph ever, actually, to my knowledge.
You're just not wearing underwear.
So what was actually, seriously, what was happening here?
Yeah.
Who gave Epstein this money in the first place? Let's confront what has happened to Britain in this in this case. And again, Sir Keir Starmer is like, maybe he should leave the House of Lords. Like, let's leave it in his hands. Like, let's see what he remembers when he thinks.
The
about
rhetoric is not exactly very strong or proportionate to what Mandelson was allegedly doing.
Politically idiotic. It's like, look, you've made a mistake. You've appointed this guy.
Yep.
You have to be doubly as hard on him.
Yes. You have to distance yourself from this.
Well, you have to involve yourself in sanctioning him, I'm afraid. Yes. And
distance your appointing of him by covering it with condemning.
Well, because otherwise there's a sort of sense of complicity.
Yes,
that,
exactly.
It is difficult to deny when you have, with knowledge of these associations, appointed this man to a really prestigious, well-paid position, really important position.
Very important political position.
Where I'm sure there were, in the UK, there's lots of really clever, talented people who work in this kind of policy-making politics space, right? There's no shortage of clever Brits who could have done this job.
Yeah.
So why did you go with them? And like, Starmer won't say why, or I don't know, Starmer can't communicate very well, but his kind of actions also have been behind I think the tide of public opinion.
Get out ahead of it a little bit rather than wait for the tides to shift and then decide what you're going to do.
But that's been his pattern all along.
Exactly. Well, the current offence carries a maximum sentence of life imprisonment, which I'm sure will definitely happen.
And maybe Nathan Gill could have a new cellmate, right? I mean, I've heard the prisons are very crowded though, so
a nice house release arrangement. Jeffrey Epstein.
They'd have lots to talk about.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay, so. That's a extremely long way of saying that my sad sack.
My great crack of the week is Peter Mandelson. He had a grand old time.
The sad sack of the week is Peter Mandelson. Not to mention Andrew Mountbatten Windsor.
That's a whole episode.
Who's just like literally like. I think the difference between them is Mandelson still had something to lose.
Yeah, Andrew's now at the bottom.
Andrew's just getting.
He's below the bottom.
Raked over the coals. Yeah,
he's not having a good time.
Although he remains like in a much nicer house than I live in. I was just saying that to someone. I was like, well, if ultimately being found out to be this kind of sex offender, like the punishment is you just get removed to an estate in
it's only a 5-bedroom house,
sand something or other.
Yeah,
your brother just buys you a 5-bedroom house. Like it's not. I don't really see the sanction there.
You seem like a new career path opening up for you.
Yeah. Frogmore Cottage was very big and difficult to maintain anyway. So
yeah, exactly. If anything, he's just made his life better. Now he doesn't have as many rooms to hoover.
So yeah, but I mean, I think in the kind of public opinion game, he's out of it.
Yeah.
Mandelson was also like widely mistrusted and derided in British public opinion.
Yes.
But seen as, I mean, I just want to hear about how good this guy was.
Yeah, what justifies it?
Well, from Sir Keir, because he was the one who made the call.
And your great crack.
Okay, so it's been a bit of a wide-ranging discussion, a bit longer than normal, because it's been, about 7 weeks since we recorded?
It's been a long time.
And
in
many
politics,
things happened.
What did they say? Like, there are weeks where nothing happens, there are weeks where decades happen, or whatever.
There are decades where nothing happens,
yes.
And I can tell you that we're not living in one of those decades. But as I mentioned, so... There were 2 people shot dead in America in between our last recording and this one, and both like Renee Good and Alex Bretty deserve recognition, I think, for having been just shot in the street like that as sort of a tragedy, regardless of who they are, right? Regardless of, even if Pretty turns out to be like an Arsenal fan, I can just live with it, right?
Just about.
No, but in all seriousness. They do deserve to be remembered, and it is terrible what's happened. What I took from it a little bit was that Pretty was the one that moved the needle more than Renee Good did.
Yeah.
Pretty moved the needle mainly. I mean, the guy seems to have been quite saintly in terms of like you're a nurse who specializes in helping veterans. Right? That's like a good human
Can't really
being.
pick like the
it's
worst
a good
person
role.
to kill,
I mean, it's a good role. Like it's a good thing to be working at. And he, by all accounts, a decent skin. But what kind of made it impossible to just shoot him dead and not have any repercussions was that he had a gun on him. Ironically, the initial excuse that they used that he had a gun was what meant that like their base didn't like the fact that you can just be shot for having a gun on you.
Yep.
Because that's kind of important to Republicans.
Pretty important. Trump himself even came out and said like only bad people have guns, which is a bit of a closed-minded comment to make given his base. But
yeah, I mean, I'm not delighted when I see someone with a gun. But it doesn't happen that much in the UK. But it does happen a lot in America, and people don't tend to get shot dead in the street.
True.
Why was Renee Good seen as like a less, what's the word I'm looking for? A less acceptable or a more acceptable victim in some circles? She was a lesbian woman, as I understand it, or she at least had like different. She was bisexual, perhaps. Like she had partners of different genders, right?
Being a woman,
across
I
her
guess,
life.
yeah.
She was a woman. She was a mother, which didn't seem to count for much either way, unfortunately. I mean, that was what made me sad about it.
There was some argument made that she was driving at ICE officers when video clearly shows her wheels pointing in the opposite
But you
fucking
know what's
direction.
bad? When like Joe Rogan is fact checking you on that one, right?
That's
So
crazy.
like Joe Rogan got off the Trump train for a bit and was
Yeah.
like, that's like Gestapo, and she wasn't driving towards
It turns out like executing American citizens is turns out that actually kind of affects people sometimes, you know?
Yeah, the video's pretty clear what
Yeah.
happened, to be honest. But what sort of stuck was she was a bit lefty, which is what it is. And she had like dyed her hair at some point, and that's the
Yeah.
thing that triggers a lot of people.
Kind of in this like SJW from 2016 territory where, you know, the own the libs territory of here are some visual markers of woman, different color hair, and, you know, left leaning.
Yeah.
I hate this person. Like,
So there's a
it's-
kind of just antipathy
There
that
is,
was,
yeah.
activable. And what really pissed me off was that some people said she's a poet, and they're like, that like makes her an Egypt basically, and like implicitly, I suppose, less
worthy of life.
It doesn't matter if someone shoots her because she's only a poet.
Yeah.
So like many people who know me will know that for me, like poetry is literally the best thing any human being can do. So I thought, yeah, great crack, Renee Good. Having the name Renee Good, there's a bit of nominative determinism going on in terms of how the story is going to break. She was a poet, and this is one of her poems that I'd like to read out, which you might like, and maybe is a good way to remember people like that. So, On Learning to Dissect Fetal Pigs is the name of the poem, by Renee Nicole Macklin, or Renee Good. I want back my rocking chairs, solipsist sunsets, and coastal jungle sounds that are tercets from cicadas and pentameter from the hairy legs of cockroaches. I've donated Bibles to thrift stores, mashed them in plastic trash bags with an acidic Himalayan salt lamp, the post-baptism Bibles, the ones plucked from street corners from the meaty hands of zealots, the dumbed down, easy to read, parasitic kind. Remember more the slick rubber smell of high-gloss biology textbook pictures. They burned the hairs inside my nostrils, and salt and ink that rubbed off my palms, under clippings of the moon. At 2:45 a.m. I study and repeat. Ribosome, endoplasmic, lactic acid, stamen, at the IHOP on the corner of Powers and Stetson Hills. I repeated and scribbled until I picked its way and stagnated somewhere I can't point to anymore, maybe my gut. Maybe there in between my pancreas and large intestine is the piddly brook of my soul. It's the ruler by which I reduce all things now, hard-edged and splintering, from knowledge that used to sit, a cloth against a fevered forehead. Can I let them both be, this fickle faith and this college science that heckles from the back of the classroom? Now I can't believe that the Bible and Quran and Bhagavad Gita are sliding long hairs between my ear like Mom used to, and exhaling from their mouths, make room for wonder. All my understanding dribbles down the chin, onto the chest, and is summarized as, life is merely to ovum and sperm, and where those two meet, and how often and how well, and what dies there.
See you next week.